Happy Thursday. It's September 5th. This is the Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream. My name is Alexander Montalvo, and I am here with Neil Aquino.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Great to be here.
All right, Neil, we have a live stream topic that unfortunately is not the first time we've had this topic this year, which is the acknowledgement of the passing of a grassroots organizer that was an active member of the Texas Grassroots Alliance, but also active and impactful in their community over the years and the work they did within Texas for a better and brighter future.
Right.
And that organizer is Shirley Shaw out of New Braunfels, Texas.
Right. And, it was something that I saw as posted by her daughter, I believe, on Facebook. And so it was, for us at least, out of the blue in some respects, and definitely a loss. And Shirley was someone whom was reliable to take part in our biweekly organizing calls, but more importantly, reliable to say something insightful, offer insight, offer encouragement, offer support.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the post that Shirley's family shared on Facebook. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. That they share that Shirley passed away 8/29, and today her family is having her funeral services. Shirley Annette Shaw was born August 23rd, 1958, and had just celebrated a birthday before her passing on August 29th, 2024. So she was 66 years old. And I think, like you said, Neil, she regularly showed up for the Texas Grassroots Alliance calls. We would see that, she was at the stage of life where a lot of times she'd have to have oxygen supplied to her with her as she joined meetings. She would also share, regular updates around needing to support and tend to family members. And that would sometimes be the reason why she would miss calls, but would communicate in Slack. An organizer in her 60s who had been doing this work for quite a while was still able to keep up with the technology, keep up with the communication. She was active on Facebook. She also had her own blog that she maintained. And we want to highlight her last article that she had, that her outfit, her organization.
And Alex is frozen, and we're going to look at Shirley's blog in a moment. And I think she had just revitalized or re-begun a blog a few months ago. We had talked about it, and we have Alex back.
Yeah, sorry about that. Looks like there was a little bit of a glitch in the connection there for me. Apologize for everyone watching. But yeah, the organizing effort, I don't know if you mentioned this, Neil, when I dropped off, but was Black Lives Matter, New Braunfels, Texas. And that was what she used as her identity as she communicated in the community. And she was always about the need for communication. We have to talk about these things. We have to talk about these things with our community members, with our families, when it comes to elections, when it comes to voting, and when it comes to the issues that are impacting community members in a whole host of different ways.
Yeah. She was always insightful, and I don't want to put in organizing and activism, There are people, you know, people to varying degrees. You're in different cities, same cities. I don't want to put a pretense of knowing her better than I did, but it's no pretense to say that I respected her insight and wish to know her better. And you know, there are people, I don't want to extrapolate anything of where she was at, but there are people you meet out there who just are clearly talented, and you know, you wish for a world where that talent is recognized and resourced and facilitated, because it is clear that beyond the impact she had in New Braunfels, that her insight was needed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to share on the screen her last article. And the graphic that she used says, "Trust your struggle." Um, she very much always acknowledged that this work is a struggle, that
Yeah,
what we're fighting for has been a struggle for decades,
yeah,
really from the beginning of this country, from the inception of this country till today. It has been a struggle for it to realize the ideals it proclaims, but has not actually implemented quite as it needs to. Um, but her title of her article was November 6th: Democracy's Last Stand. And here she is navigating the internet to pull images that felt like were appropriate for the article that she was going to write. And she says, "When I say stand, it means all hands on deck. This is a fight by any means necessary. This is nuclear war, the war to end all wars, and the preservation of the United States of America and the republic for which it was founded." And she talks about, do you remember when families were the foundation of America and people all around the world wanted to live the American dream? The image of the 50s with June Cleaver, um, always in the kitchen of the maternity room. Back in the day when we made a way to afford our large families, because she came from a generation where, I don't know the number of siblings she had, but I know from my parents, who are just a little older than Shirley. They came from a generation where they had 5, 6, 7, 8 siblings or more, um, and that wasn't necessarily because everyone had the resources to have those families, but it was definitely something that people did have. Feels like much more normal than it does than today's families. I know my wife and I, we have 2 kids, um, versus the family sizes that my parents grew up in.
right. Yeah, yeah, yes,
Um, she says now they blame abortion for the decline of large families, but that is not the only cause. Uh, could man's desires and greed have some responsibility? So a lot of times the Republicans want to blame abortions as the reasons why families reduced, and a big part of that is because women have more autonomy over their bodies after Roe v. Wade, right?
sure.
And so with that autonomy, um, did allow women to make different decisions and be in different positions of deciding on having children, whether they were ready or not, and being able to have even more autonomy their um over their motherhood, right, when they were ready to do that and whether they were going to choose to do that.
Yeah,
But she makes the point of that, um desires and greed have some responsibility, and looking at how the American dream is really non-existent, right? She talks about how can people realize the American dream, um, and she talks about all the different ways that we communicate on social media. Um, we don't celebrate holidays or special events without technology, versus families being able to be connected in unity because of all the division that we have right now in our country. Um, and that Project 2025 is not the way forward. And she talks about the threat of what that Project 2025 is. And she talks about it from her perspective as an African American woman and the struggle that has had to be taken on by African Americans and the Black community since slavery. Um, and so a lot of things that Shirley would do in her communication to grassroots organizers in the Texas Grassroots Alliance would always infuse the conversation with looking at history, looking at what has been overcome, looking at what has been the challenge, talking about um, why we can't fall into despair, why, although we are tired and although we are frustrated and although we are still fighting for resources, we have to find a way forward.
Right. I felt that Shirley uh, had a laser focus on her community, but also was universal and would speak optimistically, but with um, no mistake about what the past was or what the future could offer in a negative sense if certain folks prevailed. I'm very sorry that she won't. Um, I mean, I believe we'll win, um, and so I'm very sorry that she won't be here through the November election. Be part of our calls. I think what we have the capacity to continue the work, and we have the capacity to remember, as I think we all hope we are remembered for different aspects. Of course, in our own family and folks who knew her better are remembering her best. But it's also important that this public face of her um, be remembered. I think that I think an activist would want that, and so I'm glad we have the capacity to do that. And we continue to send our signal sometimes even after we're gone. So I'm going to remember Shirley um, and Roxy, who we memorialized here a few months ago, unfortunately. And since I can think of the activism that I've been involved in with Houston, um, the specific networks and channels I've been involved with probably for about 7 or 8 years now. There's a number of people, who have passed on, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Um, and so you want to try to remember them, um, and um, and nothing we're doing is futile. And
Mhm.
so whether we or specifically remember her or not, the actions that we take still have resonance. Um, so she won't be forgotten in that sense in any case. So I'm sorry for Shirley's passing, and we'll take inspiration from her words, and we'll work to bring some of her goals to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Before I share some perspectives that organizers have shared with us today, um, I want to highlight just at the end of her articles how she always highlighted the Texas Grassroots Alliance,
Yeah. Oh, there we are.
and then she'd have a screenshot from a call or an effort or something that we were doing at the time to be able to share. And she shared the registration for the Grassroots Strong show that we've been having a couple of times a month on Fridays for a happy hour
Yeah.
conversation and just overall effort to improve, um, you know, the conversations around grassroots organizing and just continue to find resources for grassroots organizing. So just want to show how Shirley shared the love for the Texas Grassroots Alliance. And I think for me personally, one thing that Shirley would a lot of times listen to the updates that folks were sharing
Yeah.
on the call.
Yeah.
And in every
Okay.
couple of calls, I think she felt the need to help recalibrate
Right. Right.
how the conversation was being had. And when she got the mic in the Monday calls that we have every 2 weeks, and there's a call at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. that organizers join. Some organizers join both. Some organizers can only join one of them based on their schedule. Um, she would take that mic and she would have a, a speech of encouragement to everybody in that room at that time.
Yeah.
And I can't thank her enough for being able to synthesize what she's hearing from people, um, whether it was positive progress or frustration with the work or how things are being impacted, to be able to synthesize that information and then be able to push through because of her passion for the work, her passion for our future, her passion for the country and for her community and for the state, to be able to say that we've got to find a way forward. That she always recognized, like we said, that this was a struggle, but she always wanted to make sure that she was able to provide that enthusiasm and that passion, and because of her age and being one of the elders amongst the grassroots organizers, it was amazing to see a Zoom call of various backgrounds from various parts of the state kind of give that space for Shirley to be able to speak the truth that she had to share and to be able to give her that space to pass along that encouragement. And then the encouragement folks like Gian Thomas would give out of Houston, or encouragement that Danita from out of Dallas would give, or other community members, Trish from Guadalupe County would give, and Seguin, um, to be able to acknowledge the importance of what she says in those meetings at those points and what it did to help us understand the significance of our work, the significance of our struggle, but the importance for us to keep pushing ahead.
Yeah.
And for me, on a personal note, Shirley was always really active on my Facebook page whenever I shared updates around my daughters and my family. She always shared just love and encouragement for the growth that the girls have been having over the years, as kids do. They grow up and they are active. And she would also send me personal messages with political insights or information on history or just fun, good vibes, kind of joyful encouragement. And I always appreciated her for that interaction, for that effort to build community. Although we were never in person together, we were always connecting through digital means. Um, that encouragement is something that we can provide to each other, that sense of community. And folks may not know, but one of the more personal posts that I made recently was around getting rear-ended.
Right.
And unfortunately, somebody who owned a BMW hitting the back of my car and causing some damage. And the last message she had on my post was, "Who had the nerve to rear end my brother of another mother? There's a reward out for you."
Right. Right. Yeah, I can see that.
And that sense of just having each other's back, right?
Right. Right.
Having each other's back as a community, because we knew the struggles that we were fighting through, and we knew the efforts that we were doing. Gian Thomas sent me a note today. He wasn't going to be able to join us today, but he says, just saw the news on Miss Shirley. It's been a tough year with two significant losses in our group. Neil, you mentioned Roxy Williamson, who passed away earlier this year out of Galveston, Texas. Two Black women who really are passing well before their time. You know, Roxy was in her 50s, Shirley is in her 60s, and you said how it kind of came as a surprise, even though we saw Shirley, with oxygen from time to time, the kind of fervor and energy she came in with those calls and with the communication. Um, it wasn't anything that we were aware of that could have been something that was going to be, near the end of her life. Um, but still got both gone too soon. Um, he says that it really makes the work we're doing this year that much more valuable and impactful. And I do know that Roxy's sister, Serlena Smith, has shared with me that the announcement of Kamala Harris being the candidate, um, a black woman, and also has half black from her father, half Indian from her mother, a woman of color. Um, the significance of that and the desire that she wished Roxy was here for that.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that Shirley got to see that announcement happen, because I know she had enthusiasm about that significance. But unfortunately, will not be here for the election. And then the last bit that I want to share is from Trish out of Seguin, Texas. She shared, Shirley was a remarkable individual. I greatly admired her passionate speeches about history and its significance, as well as her unwavering commitment to social justice and the pursuit of equality for all. May she find eternal peace and continue to inspire us with her legacy. And I think that's something that we are actively trying to do for grassroots organizers, that a lot of the work of grassroots organizers are unacknowledged or even dismissed by an establishment of a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the Texas Grassroots Alliance is doing everything it can to make sure that people understand the work of grassroots organizers, the importance to support grassroots organizers, but the significant contributions they make towards us overcoming the struggles that we are fighting against day to day and that people are battling day to day. And so we thank Shirley Shaw for the amazing work that she did out of New Braunfels. And we know that as we achieved our goals in Texas and for our future, that Shirley will be a part of that happening. And we can't thank her enough for her contributions.
Yes. Yep. I have nothing to add. Yep.
Yeah. Well, definitely want folks who see this video to share it and to be able to comment on the amazing impact that Shirley had in the
Yeah.
work.
Please do.
Some of us had small connections and collaborations or just awareness. Others had larger, and we definitely want to hear from folks with those different perspectives and continue to memorialize this work. And I think her website, before it's lost, one thing the Texas Grassroots Alliance will do is make sure we capture all of those articles she wrote so that we
Great.
can have an archive of that and can always be a part of our overall alliance, archives.
Great.
All right. Well, Neil, thanks so much for joining this call. Thanks everyone for joining us today as we reflect and celebrate the life of Shirley Shaw out of New Braunfels, Texas, and the work she did, fighting for justice and fighting for the future we are all fighting for.
Yeah.
And let's continue to support each other, because we just never know what tomorrow is going to bring. And let's continue to give each other the grace and support to fight this fight, and find a path forward together.